The storm rolled across the prairie like a living beast, thunder cracking open the heavens and rain slicing through the darkening sky. But even the fury of nature could not mask the cruel sight at the edge of the ranchland. A young bride in a once white dress now stained with mud, her fiery hair plastered against her face, her wrists bound tight to a wooden post as if she were some kind of offering to the storm itself. Her chest heaved as she fought against the ropes, her eyes wide with terror and exhaustion. But she could not break free. Every gust of wind lashed against her. Every drop of rain stung like a whip, and her strength was fading fast. Yet fate has a strange way of intervening, for at that very moment, riding through the chaos, came a cowboy, a man of broad shoulders and unshakable resolve, his black hat shielding his eyes from the rain, his coat snapping like a banner in the wind. He saw her there, struggling, and without a moment's hesitation spurred his horse forward. Lightning lit the scene as he dismounted, boots sinking into the sodden earth, and with a single cut of his knife he sliced through the ropes, catching her as she collapsed into his arms. She looked up at him, her lips trembling as if she couldn't believe salvation had found her, and in that deep, steady voice of his he said the words that would change both their lives. "Come home with me." She clung to him, her heart pounding not just from fear but from the strange comfort in his presence. The sense that she had been rescued not only from danger but from despair. As he guided her back to his horse, she remembered the cruelty that had put her there, a forced marriage to a man she never loved, a man who thought he could break her spirit by binding her to the storm. But this cowboy, this stranger, looked at her not as property, not as a prize, but as someone worth saving. Together they rode through the downpour, the horse pounding across the plains, each hoofbeat echoing like destiny calling them forward. At his homestead, a small cabin lit by the soft glow of lantern light, he wrapped her in a warm blanket and let her sit by the fire, his eyes never leaving hers. She could see in him a man scarred by his own past battles, carrying secrets in the way he stared into the flames, but also a man whose strength was matched only by his gentleness. She whispered her name to him, voice quivering but firm, and he told her his, simple and strong like the land itself. Hours passed as the storm raged outside. But within those four walls, something new was born. A trust, a bond, a spark neither of them had expected. The firelight danced across her face as she confessed the life she had fled, how she had been forced into vows with a cruel man who saw her only as a means to wealth and power, how he had tried to break her spirit by tying her to that post and leaving her to the storm. When she finished, he leaned forward, his voice low but fierce, telling her she would never face such cruelty again. Not while he still drew breath. She believed him, not just because of the strength in his words, but because of the way he had looked at her when he cut her free, as though she had always belonged by his side. And so, when the storm finally broke and dawn rose golden across the plains, she stepped out onto the porch with him, the world smelling of rain and renewal, and she felt for the first time in years a sense of freedom. He reached for her hand, not as a demand but as an invitation, and she took it without hesitation. Together they stood at the edge of a new beginning, not knowing what trials would come, but certain of one thing, that their paths had crossed for a reason, that in the chaos of the storm destiny had bound them tighter than any rope ever could. And so the story of the bride tied to a post and the cowboy who cut her loose became a tale whispered across the land, a legend of courage, love, and second chances. If you want more stories like this, full of drama, passion, and unforgettable characters, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because every tale we tell is a journey you won't want to miss, and the next story might just be the one that stays with you forever. The storm had passed, leaving the land washed clean, but in the quiet morning air the weight of danger still lingered. The bride, wrapped in a borrowed shawl, stood on the porch of the cowboy's cabin, watching the prairie stretch endless and golden beneath the rising sun. For the first time in years, she could breathe freely, yet her heart knew peace would not last. Her cruel husband would not let her escape so easily. Men, like him, never surrendered what they claimed as theirs. Inside the cabin, the cowboy tightened the cinch on his saddle, his jaw set in a line of quiet determination. He had seen men like her husband before, ruthless, entitled, and armed with enough pride to poison a town. He turned to her, eyes steady, and said, "If he comes, he'll have to go through me." She wanted to protest, to tell him she couldn't ask him to fight her battles. But when she looked at him, words faltered. This was a man who had chosen to cut her free when no one else dared. The truth was plain. Whether she asked or not, he had already decided. As they shared breakfast in the flicker of the hearth, a distant sound carried across the plains, the faint, steady thud of hooves. Her pulse quickened, fear sparking in her chest. But the cowboy only rose, calm and unshaken, and reached for his rifle resting above the door. "It seems your past is already chasing us," he murmured, not in fear, but with the grim steadiness of a man ready to stand his ground. She clutched the shawl tighter around her shoulders, torn between terror and a newfound courage. For the first time, she was not running alone.